Chapter 31: The awarded cultural prize, the nomination process, and the ugly scuffles in advance. A first disclaimer. All persons in this book are fictional. All statements, regardless of subject, are just that, statements. Some are rooted in empirical facts, while others are pure fantasy. My aim is to balance vision and reality, fiction and fact, in such a way that the audience can recognize themselves and continue to play with the swarm of ideas and notions. The book has no ambition to proclaim an overarching message, but rather questions accepted truths. In this way, in a Socratic manner, it leaves the rest to the audience. Joran's friend, girlfriend, and live-in partner, Vanessa had always been interested in books and was during her upbringing known as the family bookworm. She had herself started writing small diary notes, which gradually turned into long diary reflections. She dwelled on details, and sometimes on the details within the details. In addition, she was very interested in biology, especially the microscopic. She had already peered into the wondrous structure and organization of cells, almost like a complete miniature factory. Inside the cell there were fixed elements with important tasks. These tasks were synchronized and precise, aiming to develop the entire cell to perfection. Suddenly the cell divided, and the same thing happened again and again at a furious pace. This strange micro-world accompanied Vanessa in everything she did. In her mid-teens, she was introduced to a theory originating in quantum mechanics that postulated parallel realities. She did not find it strange at all. After all, she was constantly peering into a micro-world. When she met Joran at a book cafe in the mid-1990s, she already had 4 novels behind her and a number of popular science articles scattered across all available forums. As a young student, she was fairly well known as the woman with the microscope and the detailed novels. She liked to have a rich cast of characters, preferably people with narcissistic traits and people with introverted traits, often set against each other. The greater the polarization, the better. She believed a high frequency of tension in social relationships was fruitful, not frightening. Yes, she was acutely aware that great tensions could create conflicts. She knew many people who were conflict-averse, yet she still saw beneficial consequences of high tension. It could be compared to a musical work in formal development, where the various themes are gradually woven together towards a dramatic and delicious climax. She had several metaphors up her sleeve, but regardless, she regarded the dramaturgy of a course of events as exceedingly rewarding. In the Norwegian Authors Association, a working committee was in the process of nominating this year's candidates for the Nordic Council Literature Prize. It was a highly prestigious award, and all the Nordic countries submitted their representative candidates. As a rule, well-known, established authors topped the nomination list, but occasionally a newcomer was included. This year, Vanessa Guldjord had been included. This sparked considerable dispute and controversy. Critics of the nomination process believed Vanessa was immature, and from a purely literary standpoint they felt the novel did not measure up. Furthermore, Vanessa had previously publicly criticized the Authors Association for the unmusical handling of criteria they practiced year after year. She had received support from heavyweight figures among authors, and it could seem that the working committee was influenced by the criticism and felt pressured to list her as a nominee. This happened by a narrow majority in the committee. At home in the living room, Vanessa and Joran sat discussing the current nomination process. He could tell her that similar disputes had taken place in the Norwegian Composers Association the year Olav Anton Thomassen won the prize. That was in 1990. And the nomination process had been dirty. A similar debate about the criteria for selection had adorned one press headline after another. The angriest voices, but also those with the strongest arguments, had hammered away at the criteria for high artistic quality. Who had written down the criteria? That was one question. But who, based on those rather old-fashioned criteria, could assess what qualified as high artistic quality? The nominated candidate Olav Anton Thomasson was himself the greatest critic of the prevailing selection criteria. And the same thing happened then as now in the Authors Association. They chose the critic of the selection method, namely Vanessa Gouldjord. She was, of course, not the only nominee. Several heavily established names were on the list. But there was a great deal of buzz around Vanessa because of the media debates surrounding the entire nomination process. All publicity is good publicity, as the saying goes. And just before the announcement of the prize, she was a hot name.